Hey everyone, welcome to HRTech Talks. I am Ben Eubanks, your host, and I'm so glad to have you here with me. Today's episode is going to be a little unexpected, a little different than what we had planned for. We were going to have Grace on to talk about the work they're doing with supporting and creating a culture of care at work, and had a personal emergency come up last minute for our speaker. So best wishes to her as she's sorting through that. But we got that rescheduled for later this spring. In lieu of that, though, we're going to spend some time together. I've got a couple of things I want to share really quick with you. Some brand new research, some new data points we have. I do that occasionally here on the show. And so this presented an opportunity for me to step in and share with you a couple of the findings we've had from some of our recent studies, some of the things that may be interesting or relevant to you, and some things that are going to help you, hopefully, if you're thinking about how to connect to people, how to create better relationships, how to achieve better results at work this year as an HR and talent leader. So all that said, let's dive into this. As always, even though I'm doing a solo episode today, if you're out there, say hello, chime in the chat. If you're watching this on the replay later on, hey, glad to have you on the replay as well. I know sometimes it's hard for people to break away from the workday or there's other things going on. So either way, just glad to have you here with us at HRTech Talks. It's a ton of fun to be here. It's such a pleasure to be able to share with you some of the things that we have. So I'm going to dive into this really quick. Short version today, short episode, share with you some of these things that we're seeing, because there's a couple of really interesting points in the research that have come up that I think you would like to know. So the first one I'm going to dive into, I've had this title kind of percolate in my head for a couple months now, and finally now have the data to share with you to back that up. So a couple of years ago, or the last year and a half, I guess, personally, we were going to build a house, and then the world kind of blew up, and it was going to cost us a tremendous amount to build. So we ended up moving to a new place a couple of months ago. But all the conversations, if you remember last year, were around this inflation for home building and the resources and lumber prices and everything else. And what's interesting is that's mirrored now in the recruiting profession, in the HR profession. The jobs that we do are in as much demand as those were at that time. And I'll share that with you. So this data right here that you see on screen is from 2020. These are job postings, courtesy of our friends over at Greenwich HR. They do labor market intelligence. And so they've been gathering data on job postings and where those are and what skills are related and all those kind of things. They have all that data on hand. So I pinged my friend Kerry over there who runs the company and asked him for some insight on this. Hey, can you give me some data on jobs postings for recruiters and HR leaders? Because I keep hearing over and over again that this is in high demand, but is it really? Like, let's prove it with some data. So these numbers here you see on screen are from each quarter of 2020. So Q1 through Q4, and you can see already there's an interesting swing there from Q1 to Q4 during 2020. And obviously the drop off there is when the whole world was kind of on pause. Everybody's trying to figure out, what are we doing? Are we going back to work? Are we not? Are we hiring anybody? Are we laying off? Like, it was just this weird time. So that swing happened. Now watch this. When I go, the average here, by the way, is 14,000. Okay, so across the year. Now watch this. This is 2020 through the end of 2021. All the data that are out there, and you can see that little bitty bit, the four on the left, was the chart I just showed you. So when we take that and blow it up or pull back, pan back against 2021, it was a drop in the bucket compared to the overall volume. About 4x, just over 4x the volume in terms of how many jobs are posted for recruiters right now. What does that mean though? Like, this is interesting. Okay, but what does that mean? Number one, if you're doing the job in HR in recruiting, you're in demand. Now is the time to make sure you're proving your value, that you're getting the amount that you're worth in the marketplace, all those things. I've talked to a lot of leaders and friends who are actually shifting around. We're seeing this stuff happen in other jobs as well. But to take a second and focus out on our career, on our lens, we're actually going to be doing, I haven't announced this yet, but I'll just go ahead and announce that now. We're going to be doing a special edition of HR Summer School called Winter Break next month, February 22nd to 22. We're going to do this session called HR Summer School Winter Break. And a part of that conversation, a part of that event, that virtual session, is going to be in and around finding the right job, using your strengths, things like that. Because a lot of the time we think about doing that for our other people. And I often tell the story of when we had our first layoff that I was ever exposed to. I worked with the employees and their resumes and helped them transition to all those kind of things. So we don't often think about ourselves though in that context. We see it happening in the world around us. We have a hard time finding this talent or recruiting for that skill. And it's the opportunity for us to make sure we are getting what we're worth as HR leaders in the marketplace. So just want to share that with you. It's through the roof in terms of people looking for recruiters and recruiting talent right now. And again, HR is right behind that. So I want to share that one. One other thing, we did a study with a company over called PTO Exchange. We're going to be sharing this data very soon in a report and a webinar and some other stuff. But one of the things I want to share with you in this is we keep hearing over and over again that people want flexibility at work. And we've got some new research coming out on flexibility as well, because when we talk to employees, when we talk to the actual workforce, they say they want flexibility. But when I ask one of you, if I ask you right now, what does that mean? And you can answer me, you'd probably think, well, where someone works. That's what we've been conditioned to think about. And that's where my mind immediately went until we started gathering some of this data. And once we did, I started shifting that, because flexibility for your people means something very different. And as you can see here on the screen, these are how they responded to all these different things. Having choices about where I work, right? I want to work remotely. I want to work from my couch. I want to whatever. That's not the most important thing, because number one, there are a lot of people that work in deskless industries, which means they're the Comcast guy that shows up at your house to fix the cable. Right? That person doesn't have a desk. They don't have email. They don't have a chance to work remotely, and they don't think they're going to. The person who's working in a retail store, the person who's working in a manufacturing plant, they don't have flexibility as an option in terms of where they work. But what other flexibility can we offer those people, especially right now when it's such a tight labor market? We're trying to find ways to stand out from the other employers. How do we connect with people and talk about flexibility in a way that matters to them, in a way that matters to us as an organization? And what you see in the data, you can see it right here on the screen, having choices about how work gets done, a little bit of autonomy, a little bit of control. The research for a long time has shown that. If you follow Dan Pink's work, a couple of the key things that drive engagement, one of those top three is autonomy in your work, being able to have some flexibility and a say-so in how it gets done. That doesn't mean you don't hold anyone accountable. That doesn't mean that there's no responsibility. That doesn't mean we throw all the deliverables out the window and let them just, kumbaya. No, you're still accountable for these results, but how you get to those, we're going to give you some more control over that and let you decide how you get that done. That even a small change, number one, doesn't cost anything in some cases and can drive incredible engagement and connection, because people want some more say-so in the work they do. So again, more on this coming very soon, but I want to share that stat because flexibility, as we've often defined it, may be completely and totally inaccurate from what our employees think about it. So the big takeaway for you here, autonomy matters, but the big takeaway for you is don't assume you know what flexibility means when you talk to your people. Ask them what flexibility means to them, because you may get some answers like you see here on the screen, and this will give you a chance to connect with them and create different experiences with them in the workplace. All right, one or two more stats for you. So this is a different study we finished in November with the team over at LifeSpeak. So the focus is on mental health at work and really creating a culture of wellness and well-being. We asked in this study, we asked employees to rate, how are your employers doing when it comes to well-being, mental health? How are they supporting you from that perspective? We also asked employers, how are you doing? How do you think you are? And you can see here, the numbers were vastly different. Employees gave their companies a failing grade, average of 4.4, which on a grading scale is an F. Whereas employers gave themselves a C, right? A C plus maybe. They said, hey, we're doing pretty good at this. We're not too bad, but we could be better. We're okay. But employees did not agree with that. And what's interesting, we dive into the actual data, start looking through that, trying to figure out what's underneath this. There's a couple different things. I'll hold on that for a second. There's a couple different things. One of them is that employers say, we've done all these things to try to create a more positive impact at work. We've tried to make steps, we're trying to make strides. But when you ask employees, much fewer of them are able to identify what those positive changes are. And I've said this for a very long time, but this data point really illustrates it. We do great work in HR and talent and learning, right? Across the board. We do great work. I believe that you do great work. But if no one can see it, no one can perceive it, no one knows about it, you might as well have not done it at all. And one of the in this report, we'll be publishing it in the next week or so. In the report, one of the quotes that I use is, if a tree falls in the forest and no one is around, does it make a sound? That's always been this existential kind of question. And the question I ask is, if an HR team rolls out this new initiative and no one notices, did it really matter? Does it really count? Did it really happen? And from the employee perspective, what we're seeing in the data, as you can see here on screen, is for many of them, it didn't happen like we wanted it to. So we've got to look at ways not just to do the things, but to make sure we're thinking about it through a marketing lens of how do we make sure we tell people about this, not just saying, I did that, but do you realize the benefit of this? Or do you realize how much this could serve you and your family? Or do you realize how much this could enable this thing that you need? So some good stuff coming from that, including what employers think are the biggest benefits and what employees think are the biggest benefits. There are some interesting things there. I don't want to spoil that one, so that'll be coming as well in that report. So much good stuff. One of the big things that popped out of that study, though, the last question we asked in the study, after walking employees through how their employers have done this stuff for them or not, what they need, what they're craving, all those things, we asked them about whether this would matter to them in their job. All this stuff, is it just window dressing? Is it just a nice to have, or does this really matter? And 3 out of every 4 people, if you lined up 4 of your employees right now in front of you, 3 of them statistically would say those kinds of benefits, those kind of mental health support at work would make me more likely to stay in my job. And people looking for ways to connect with people right now, that's a great point, and so important. I meant to throw a slide in here on our new data from the Great Reprioritization and just missed my chance. But we saw so many things in that new research where we surveyed thousands of North American workers, asking them about, are you really going to leave your job or not? And what we found is, unlike the news, which makes it seem like there's this tidal wave coming to crush us all and there's nothing we can do about it, just hold on for dear life, the data actually show that we have levers we can pull. We have things we can do. We have ways we can support. We have ways we can connect with our people. We need to get our managers and our leaders in the mix, because we can't do all this ourselves. Our load is already pretty heavy as HR leaders. We can't do it all ourselves. But the research show that there are ways we can make an impact to drive up retention, to increase engagement, to make people want to stick around at our companies. So just to give you some encouragement there, again, some good research coming. Some stuff already done, just waiting to share it in that post-holiday slump. Some really good research, I think, is coming, though. I'm so excited to share this out there with you, so you can make some better decisions, all that good stuff. So I told you we have a short episode today. 2 quick announcements before we wrap up. Number 1, second edition of my book is coming out, and I actually have it. I never have one on hand when I need it. Second edition is coming out. I'm so excited because when I wrote the first edition, I'll tell you something funny. When I wrote the first one 5 years ago now, I was honestly, don't laugh at me, please. I was worried that when I turn the manuscript in, there's a 6-month process for the publisher to get the book out into the world. I was worried the first time I published this, that by the time the book actually got out into people's hands, that the conversation about AI at work would no longer be interesting or no longer be relevant. How silly was that, right? So when I talked to them last year, they said, would you please do another version? Because we keep hearing from this. People want this book. People are curious about this topic. People really want to understand it. And it's been actually used as a textbook for a couple of universities, Cornell, NYU, and a couple other notable organizations, which is just astounding to me. But the book is coming, the brand new version of it. And if you want a copy of that, AIHRbook.com. If you're in the continental US, I will get the book. I will sign that for you. We'll send you some other goodies as well. You'll see that all on that page when you go there. But we'll send you a guide that I wrote looking at what jobs, what tasks within HR are more likely to be automated than others, and recruiting as well as a couple other things, like a list of the companies that we've run across and actually interviewed and vetted that are using some sort of machine learning or natural language processing, some AI tools within their software. So across the HR tech landscape, this isn't for supply chain or marketing. This is only in the HR world. So the book, I tell everybody, it sounds like a textbook, and it's being used as a textbook, to be honest, in some places. But what I keep hearing over and over again is, number 1, it's very readable. It's fun. The way I talk is the way it's written. But it's also a book about making work more human and more connected, creating an environment where we can really get to those things that excite us about the job of HR. So if you want to get that one, if you want to get it as a gift for a friend, I heard someone last night. My wife posted it. She's excited about it. She posted it on our Facebook page, and one of the people that she's connected to said, "Hey, my daughter is a VP of HR. Do you think she'd like this?" And she's like, "Absolutely, yes, for sure." So if you want it, feel free to go there. You can get it, and I'll make sure and mail that out. You can get your other goodies as well. So thank you so much for your support of that. And last but not least, if you are in the HR technology world, if you're a vendor out there, the HRTech Awards are in full swing. Those are open for the next 6 to 8 weeks or so. I can't do the math in my head right now, about 8 weeks, close mid-March. So if you are looking for HR technology, if you're thinking about making a purchasing decision this year, we use this as a tool for some of our advisory board members to help them understand which providers are out there, which ones are doing a good job. So if you're a practitioner, if you're doing the work and you're looking for tools, this can give you some insight into ones that we have vetted and our judging panel have actually vetted and looked at. If you are a vendor out there and you're looking for a way to get some independent review of what you're doing, or to get some additional insight into how you stack up against some of the other providers, we'd be happy to have you in the awards. So you can learn more at the hrtechawards.org website. All right. And with that, that is the last thing I had for you. Wanted to give you all a quick shout out today. I hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful day so far, a good start to your week. I want to give you some encouragement that this is going to be a great week. I just know it is. So thank you for hanging out with me for HR Tech Talks. I appreciate it. And I'll catch you again next week with a new episode. Stay tuned.